of having him come to the club about 3 or 4 years ago. And I do know that the talk was a very successful one because everybody was amazed at all the photographs that we're showing. I think that one, or the last one we saw, was about Australia. So looking forward to tonight. Before we start, has anybody got any questions?
No.
Everybody's quiet. Okay.
Right. What I'm going to do is I will mute everybody.
Okay, Alan.
If you can switch your cameras off, that I think improves the bandwidth. So Gianopiero, you have to unmute yourself after I've muted everybody. Okay. Right, I'm muting now.
Okay.
Yeah. You should be able to share screen. If not, tell me. And I'll...
Okay, I'll share a screen now. Yeah. No.
Right.
Most disabled participant screen is sharing.
Right. So I've allowed multiple people to share. Try it again now. I've allowed multiple people to share. Try it again now.
Yeah. Okay.
Now we're getting something. Yeah.
Right. Can you see it? Yes.
Yeah. Mediterranean journey. It says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Just put these things up on the right there. Okay. Right. Yes. Thank you very much. I think this is the third time I'll do a presentation at your club. It's always nice when you ask to come back, so it means previous time they went all right. Hope everything go well tonight as well. I would have preferred to be there in person because I'm sure the picture, they are not fully show the potential on Zoom, but unfortunately that's the way we'll have to go this day. The talks the program secretary choose tonight is called Mediterranean Journey, and I'll put on the next slide. If you could see what was the reading underneath, it's a botanical presentation. It's about lots of different trips I did on the past on the Mediterranean region, where I used to go down for a week, 10 days, sometimes 2 weeks, early spring, just get away from the hard English winter, just go down in the Mediterranean sunshine and looking for most flower and orchids, local flower and orchids, but there's always been some birds and things like that as well coming through. All these little dots you see is place where I've been. I've been starting doing this trip since in the 80s, 1989, I think is the first trip I done, which was in Portugal. Obviously, we're not in about Portugal tonight because that was done during the slides time. So obviously you cannot use slides anymore. And then I've done lots of several trips here in Turkey. I've been 7 consecutive years in Turkey, but again, all during the slides time. So I didn't done any slides or any scanning of the slides. So tonight we'll be starting putting in, just show you from Spain, all the Mediterranean Spain, the Balearic Islands, Sardinia, Corsica, Sicily, and part of Italy and France, and the mountain of Italy as well, which I do consider Mediterranean, even that one, because there is a lovely wildlife. As you notice, I didn't done anything on the former Yugoslavia yet. I've done Greece as well, and Cyprus and Crete and so on, but not yet anything in the former Yugoslavia. I don't know, it never attracted me so far. I will start one day, but obviously not at the moment. As I said, mainly they are to be flower, then there'll be some scenery and so on. Not all the picture, the recent picture, because these they are trips that have been done on the past as well. So some of the picture they be a little bit, you know, not maybe up to the standard of a proper club like yours, but it will give you the idea exactly what he was in there and so on. We took this trip, most is with friend as well. And actually one of my friends is there, Big John Wakely, you will see is logged in tonight. And to go around with him, he was a spectacular things to be around with him, because he was just a good friend, but he never take proper photograph. He didn't like take photograph. He only likes walking and walking all the time. So when we were in a group, 2, 3, sometimes 4 people, we used to send him in front and looking for subject to photograph. And he loves to do that. And he always found an incredible amount of stuff to photograph for us. He just used to put some rocks, stone or sticks on the roadside, in the side of the road, and tell us exactly where to go. And he was so good in finding things. We even changed his name, because his name is John. We didn't change his name. We used to call him Rover. Said, come on, Rover, go and find this. Come on, Rover, go and find that. And it was fantastic. Sorry, John, about that. Right, so now we start. Just sometime we go down, used to go in this trip with a flying in location and get a car and so on. But sometimes we used to drive down to France. And I still do now when I'm going to Italy, which I live in the North Italy, driving through with the car. And to me, springs is start here on the mountain. So I'll be putting in if it's not really Mediterranean area, I'll be putting in quite a few pictures of the mountain. So we're just coming in on the mountain between France and Switzerland in Italy. And we are about in March in here, and you could see there the mountain, they still have a little bit of snow. All the fields, they are dry yellow because they've been under the snow for a long time. And you go through this valley, they're all abandoned valley this time of the year. They come quite well full of people during the summer when there's lots of greens and insects and fresh air around. But now it's almost abandoned. But even so, if you go around, there are lots of things to see. Even the beginning of March, you could see in this picture in here is already some little flower and crocus coming out. And the snow in here is only disappeared only a couple of weeks before. And so this is where exactly I do start my Mediterranean trip. And remember one time I went through from France in Switzerland, and then from Switzerland to Italy, I went to the Aosta Valley, and I went through the Gran Paradiso National Park. And it was a lovely trip. It was just the middle of March, and there it was, springs all start coming into life. Went in this field, was still snow down, and found some beautiful spring meadow saffron, which is like a very large crocus. You could see the difference between the crocus and the spring saffron. A beautiful flower indeed. And then obviously lots of other crocus. Some they still come in on the snow, and some where the snow is already been melting away from a few weeks in advance, and there's still an enormous amount of crocus coming up. And it's a real spectacle to see. And this again, just said, is just very happy on the mountain in the middle of March. Another flower you could find, one of the first flower coming out, is the Anemone Hepatica, or liverwort, as they call as an English name. And again, as well, beautiful plant, beautiful flower. It could be found it still on snow or just completely out where the snow is already melted. It's a plant, a loving plant, which it loves. It likes to stay in very shadowy area. It grows especially under pine conifer, and so it's in the summer it's nice and cool and doesn't get too much sunshine. Other interesting plant, other interesting flower comes out this time of the year is Primula piedmontana, a sort of auricola primula. And then we got the Primroses, which is one of the first flower, which is enormous amount of this plant. It's like here in England, you go almost cow's litters in so many white places. There we have the Primroses, the common one. And this time of the year as well is when these lovely animals, they coming down from the high mountain. If you consider these places like that, around these houses and these old shacks and so on, you'll be completely covered with maybe 5 foot, 6 foot of snow sometimes only 3. And so it will be nothing to graze for them. So they live up here on this very high mountain, scraping the living out of little grasses and bushes, coming out where the snow cannot settle. At this time of the year, this green grass start coming up, so they coming down lower and start grazing in this lovely fresh grass. You could see they still got this winter coat on, you know, very thick coat. And so is the Ibex. The one before it was the chamois. This is the Ibex. Again, just look in what sort of habitat. And this is what it been living all through the winters, really scraping, living out. And in temperature, maybe at 20 below zero, perhaps even more. And they survive the winter, and they just coming down again and in spring and just grazing in this lovely little fresh grass coming up. So the marmot, they coming out from hibernation to still this long fur, this long winter fur on. They come out. Most of the time they do some bedding and feeding because they have to catch up with a loss of weight in the winter. And then they will start territorial dispute. They will start digging tunnels and make family and so on. This is the Alpine Marmot. Flowers, they're going out. Then they follow up just a couple of weeks later. You will have the Lady of the Snow, the Pulsatilla vernalis. You have coltsfoot, all flowers, they'll grow early on the year. And a little bit later on, you'll find bird's hair, Primula auricula, and Pinguicula alpina. And it's not just on my area of the mountain, but in the Dolomite area as well. They got lots of flower in the springs. This is in front of the Trecime di Lavaredo. You got the snowbell coming out, and some of them they still coming out from the snow. And follow on by the bird's eye primroses, mountain aven, and list primroses, and orchids that will come later on as well. There are birds too. I remember once when we went up on the Dolomite, me and my friend John, I call him Big John, so I'll be calling him a lots of time Big John because he's a very big, tall chap. We went up on the Dolomite, and it was this chuff. And as soon as we sit down to have our sandwich lunch, they all come around us. So they are used to people throwing leftover to them. So I just throw a bit of sandwich, and they pick it up immediately. So I have an idea to take some picture, but I didn't have any more food. So we went in one of the restaurants, which was a restaurant there, and asked if they got some stale bread or something like that, which I asked, I want to feed the birds. And they give me some bread. I said, how much do you want? I said, oh, it's all right, you can have it. So we went down and we start putting breads all over the place, and quite a lot of chops comes in. At one point, I see this chop, they start laying down like this one on the soil in here. And it's just laying down and open the wings and don't move. I said, oh my God, we kill all the chops. They're choking now. We overfeed them and they're dying. But it wasn't that. It's only because the sunshine came out. And so they straight away stretch the wing and they start sunbathing. But luckily enough, it wasn't. We didn't kill them. Lots of birds as well go around early springs, a snow finch, and fantastic scenery. This is the Misurina Lake of Misurina. And we stopped in there one morning, and that's when we were up in the morning. That was the nice scenery we had from the balcony. And this talking about middle of April as well. And it's almost looking like Canada, really, if you look at this picture, but it is the Dolomite. And later on, you could always visit as well the Dolomite, even during the summer, because it's a fantastic, all the mountain. They are really fantastic place to see. Just scenery, whatever you are interested on landscape or on nature, there always are lots and lots of opportunity to do. This is San Martino di Castrozza, and in Valbadia, and this on the side in here is Passo Sella. Valbadia, this yellow thing, there's a million of dandelion growing on that meadow. Again, one of the best pass. You go in the Dolomite, is Passo Sella. Follow on, this is Cortina Dampezo, is the capital of the Dolomite. It's a bit like the Monte Carlo in the mountain, a very, very expensive place to live. And they will be doing the Olympic snowing, the Winter Olympic, sorry, that's the name, the Winter Olympic in 2026 in here. And this will be all the mountain they're using for the ski resources and so on. So Cortina Dampezo, as I said, you need to be a millionaire to have a little flat or something like that in there. Fragrant orchids as well, beautiful. I do like in the mountain photographing flower. My favorite lens is the wide angle, because I like to take the flower in the first front near to the lens and with a beautiful, lovely background. I think that's the best way to give the flower and the scenery together, not to do a real interesting shots. Yellow spotted gentian, Gentiana punctata, and trumpet gentian, again with the wide angle lens. And yellow mountain poppy, Papaverum alpinum. It's actually this place on top of the Stelvio Pass. This in here, up to 20 years ago, used to be a glacier. And in this glacier, they found the famous Otzi, you know, the 3,000, sorry, I think it was 5,300 years old mummies, the Tyrolean man, which a German couple found it in Italian territory, but obviously he didn't report it to the Italian, he reported to the Austrian authority. So the Austrian, they came and they collected, and even if it's been found in Italy, now is in Vienna. And if you ever go on internet and just put in Otzi, the Tyrolean man, there are so many stories that be coming from this Iceman. They even actually rebuild his face as well, you know. And how can he preserve himself like that, you know? And the weapon he was using, they never thought at that time men that was able to use that sort of weapon and sharpen them and everything. They've been able to tell what sort of food he was eating, how tall he was. Incredible things with the study of this day. And just behind this flower is a roads coming up, the road on the Stelvio. Just look, incredible roads. And here they go up with the Giro d'Italia, with the bicycle, they go up in here. And to go on the top, there are 52 bends, 52 pin bends in here to come up onto the top in here. And it's up to 2,400 meters high. And then there are insects. Obviously, my favorite of all is the Apollo butterfly. I don't think there are any other beautiful butterfly as the Apollo. To me, is the top of the butterfly. You know, it's just an absolutely stunning insect. Other beautiful butterfly, marble white, which you do have it in England as well. Completely the same. Pearly heat, Koinonympha, Archenia, and lots of fritillary, false heat, fritillary, and alpine heat. Mountain fritillary, and here you could see we got the underwings. Here you got the male, the one in the left-hand side, and the female. The female is a bit larger, big abdomen, and completely different color, bit much darker than the male, and much bigger than the male as well. And it's very abundant, the butterfly in the mountain. Small pair border fritillary. and the pear border fritillary, marble fritillary as well, another beauty, really stunning fritillary, this one, and the lesser marble fritillary, almost the same marking underneath, much smaller. And the other one's a bit, the first one, I showed you the marble fritillary is more a mountain fritillary. This one is a bit a lower altitude. And then we got the Cynthia's fritillary, the female darker color, because most of the butterfly in the mountain, they are a darker color because they absorb the heat much quicker. And the female especially, they do need to absorb it because the other one, they have to lay the eggs and everything. But this particular one is a special one because the male is the only fritillary in the world which has white wing, the Cynthia's fritillary. And then Thor's fritillary and speckled wood, if you see, is much more reddish in color, the speckled wood from the continent. Going up several passes I do through when I go there to Italy. This is Passo Maggiore, and this is a way to go when I'm going to see one of my friends, which he lives up on a place called Livigno. It's just the opposite side of St. Moritz in Switzerland. And there, behind this mountain is St. Moritz. Years ago, the first time I went to see him, about 25 years ago, the mountain, it was completely covered on meadow and cattle to graze. Now it's been such a big development. They put million in it. They put skiing resorts all over the places for the winter. And in the summer, on the skiing resorts, they did mountain bike tracks coming down from this high mountain. They go up with a cable car, with a bicycle, and they come down. And I think they go about 15 kilometers of tracks to come down. And unfortunately, obviously, wildlife and flower and butterfly and things like that, or not all disappear, but they had a big impact. And you see still all the posts for the winter skiing in here. But unfortunately, that's the only way they could survive. And it used to be a smaller region, but now it's almost a big city with lots and lots of hotels in there. But obviously, they're always looking for a better living as well. And you cannot live in agriculture in these places. It's better live on tourists. There's still lots of flower around, cotton grass, Arnica montana, Alpine past flower, they're just following after. And so is the orchids, common spotted orchids, which occur in England, obviously, very abundant. And small white pseudorchis albida, which here it only occurs in Scotland. Dark red Elloborine, Epipactris acrorubens, and red Elloborine, which in this country is very rare indeed. And then we go lady slipper orchids, Cypripedium calceologus, and especially around the Dolomite area, there are lots and lots of these. But I said a lot, there used to be lots more. Years ago, they used to collect them and put them on the little vase on restaurant table. Now they're protected, they cannot do anymore. But there's still quite a few around, and there's still people picking it, I'm afraid. There are butterfly too, great banded grayling and woodland grayling. This one, I actually see it only once, the great banded, in 10 years, the last 10 years. And this only twice in 10 years. The last time I saw it was 2 years ago, because last year, obviously, because of COVID, I didn't manage to go. Other interesting butterfly up in the mountain clouded yellow and moorland clouded yellow. I do put all the name of the butterfly because with my accent, maybe you don't understand properly, or even for myself, I do it because my brain, I begin to lose my memory, so I'm forgetting brain. If I put the name on, I know what I'm talking about. Great sooty satyr, not a beautiful butterfly, but a very rare one. And so there are the coppers, several coppers. This is the purple age copper. And lots of ringlets: almond eye, Scotch Argus, and brassy ringlet. Brassy ringlet, there are 3 species: common brassy ringlet, Swiss brassy ringlet, and forgot the other one. A large wall brown Lasiomata maera, and cranberry blue and cranberry fritillary. These are very high mountain butterfly. The cranberry blue especially is a real speciality. It's so rare, it's unbelievable. Even that one, in the last 15 years, I only saw it twice. And last time I saw it was 2 years ago in this place I was just showing now up on Livigno. Alpine blue and Glandon blue. And just look the scenery, that fantastic scenery of this mountain in here. I don't think it's a beautiful scenery as the mountains could give you in the summer, in a beautiful, nice day. Maybe I'm saying this because I'm in love with the mountain, because that's where I do come from. Adonis blue, as well, you have it in this country, but it's a typical mountain butterfly in there. And so is the small skipper, which there is resting in a bearded bell flower. Just found it recently, blister beetles, Malabris polymorpha, and white colored burnet, Zygaena carniola. Checkered bee beetle, Trichodes alvearius. Alvearius in Latin is something to do with bee. And actually these beetles, they are hunters of honeybee. They do love catch honeybee, especially ambush them on the flower, and sometimes even try to go on the bee house. Golden banded burnet, again another day flying moths. And this one perhaps is the most beautiful of the insects flying on meadow on the summer. All fly, Escalapius lobelluloides. And it's just an absolutely beautiful insect. This is the male, yellow one. The female is a bit more greenish blue in color. Now we start down in the Mediterranean. You could see this is quite an old trip, Liguria in France, Liguria and France. I went with my wife in there. I said, come on, darling, I'll take you down in Liguria and France for a nice holiday, for a week holiday. And so we start in the Italian part of the border in Liguria, which this is San Remo, this city of San Remo. And in Italy, it's quite famous, San Remo, because we call it the city of the flower. It's famous because obviously, as I said, because of the spring flower. If you ever watch the New Year's concert in Vienna, when they show it in television, all these fantastic flowers, they all coming from the city of San Remo. The other part is famous San Remo is because in this building, they do the festival of the Italian music every year. And also on the 19th of March, they do the first big bicycle race, the Milan-San Remo. So it's famous, this city. For us Italian, it's famous like that. And obviously there are lots and lots of flowers around. And just went around in San Remo just for a day. Then we move in a place called a little village called Dolce Acqua. It's a beautiful little village. I'm surprised it's not been found by landscape photographer yet. It's a village just in the need of a valley, in a small mountain in there, divided in two by these brooks. On the other side is an open village, and this side is an old village. And they're all entrance of this village. And it almost lives underneath of the mountain because they are very, very narrow, very dark street underneath. Picture, they're not fantastic, as you could see, because it's an old trip, this one. But it was still with a Canon 20D, one of the first digital pictures. But they give you an idea what sort of little habitat, what sort of picture a good landscape photographer could take. We move away, we went to France, then we passed through Monte Carlo. After 2 days, it did start raining, and it never stopped raining, and just raining. Here is the marina down in Monte Carlo. And you could see in here, they already have, this is the beginning of May, they already preparing all the stand for the racing, marina in there, and again, the new marina, that is the tunnel where you go through the race in there. So they was all getting ready for the race, and I took the chance actually to go around in the proper racetrack, you know, because you drive around the town and that's where the traffic's going, because there was no racing car yet, and obviously to be a Ferrari, and I have to try the race car in Monte Carlo, which was just a, you know, sort of satisfaction really. Then obviously the typical landscape, the typical icon of the place, like the Opera House, Hotel de Paris, and Monte Carlo Casino in here. Then you see the Grimaldi Palace and Monte Carlo Square, which in this corner in here, that's the entrance. You could see this one on the side in here is the entrance, which will take you out on the Grimaldi Palace. And this is the coat of arms of the Grimaldi family. Anyway, just another day in there, then it started to go and looking for plants. We went up north of Nice, and then we was aiming to the Provence. And one of the orchids I want to see, it was the Ophrys splendida, the splendid Ophrys, which I found it near some old Roman ruin. And the other one I was looking, it was a Philippis orchid, which was an orchid which has been rediscovered only 5 years before. It has been reported at the beginning of the century by an English botanist, and then they've never been recorded since 1980, 83 or something like that. And that it was the big talks about this one, so I really want to see it. In one place, we stopped on a field, and we went inside of this field, and there was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of late spider orchids. They was called Ophrys fuciflora. Now, the orchids, I don't know if it's unfortunately or fortunately, Mr. Delforge, the latest archaeologist, the latest orchids man, he split them so much, and you don't know what you're looking anymore. But anyway, you could see in here, you could see, even if you are not an expert, you could see they're all completely different plants. And I suppose they must have been split up in 5 or 6 or even 7 different species. Now, we move to north and Sisteron. Again, it looks a nice weather in here, but it was still raining all the time. This is the day-flying moths, which is endemic to that part of France. And up even higher on some passes, we went past the La Croix, and we found some gentiana and some early purple orchid and some fritillaria. One I was looking for, it was Orchis spitzelli. It's an Ophrys more likely to find in Northern Europe. You do find it even up to Turkey, but on very, very, very few specimens, you know, and that it was one of the target I was doing. And you could see on the plant, especially in this small spider orchid, Ophrys araneola, is a lots and lots and lots of rain in there. And I think it was in the 4th or 5th day now without stopping the rain. And there is my little darling wife, you know, looking at me, said, "My God, you said you're gonna give me a nice holiday, and so far I've just been spending time in a car looking for the rain, and every time I come out, the only things I'm going to do is holding the umbrella for you, taking the picture." And she was all right, you know, poor girl. So in the end, we packed it in. The first time I ever had to pack in an holiday because of bad weather. So I met it up a few years later, went to Elba Islands, and this 2015, it was the anniversary of my 40th wedding, and me and my wife, we do meet actually the first time in Elba Island, so it was a surprise trip for her. Elba Island is a Parco Nazionale now. It contains Gorgona, Capraia, Elba, Pianosa, Monte Cristo, Giglio, and Giannutri, all these little islands in here. And most of them, they are flat apart, Monte Cristo and Elba Islands. So there we go. And I met my wife in there in 1970. I was working in there. I worked 5 years, 5 summers in working in Elba Island. So I know the place quite well. And now there are 3 different ferry taking you there. At that time was only one. It's a beautiful place, even cruise liner pulling. You arriving at the capital, you go in Portoferraio, used to be famous by Island for jails. They used to send people in jail, they cannot escape. This actually one used to be an old jail anymore, which now is all apartment and so on. And this is the way you go in, the promontory, and then you go in on this side on the port of Portoferraio. What to see in Elba Island? Yeah, lots of things to see. One of the beauty, the little village, the little beauty is Porto Azzurro, the blue port. Fantastic little place, not just blue water. And this time of the year, we are in the middle of April, and here, and you go in, it's not tourist. Here, the tourist, it doesn't start until the middle of May. And Elba Island is not in a tourist brochure because it's an expensive place to go. So it's not for everybody really. But anyway, it's still a very busy place in the summer. Got lots of back streets in this Portoferraio town, Porto Azzurro town. Beautiful place, even for a landscape photographer. Find lots of little cranny and places to photograph. Go around in the island. We had 1 or 2 bad days as well. This is Lacona Beach. It's still quite dirty because it's never been touched until winter. And in the east coast as well, in there, the east coast, you go around. It's not very, very busy in the east coast, just a very, very small village. This is the Isla of Monte Cristo. This about the Count of Monte Cristo is about the books and the story of Count of Monte Cristo. Called Fetovaya Point. Again, another view from Monte Calamita. From Monte Calamita, then you could see there the island of Monte Cristo. It looks like a volcano, but it's not a volcano. It's only a cloud on top of that. Other places to see in the east coast as well. Elba East Coast, lots of rugged lands and beautiful. It's one of the cleanest sea in the Mediterranean now. That's one of the reasons they made it as a national park. And again, you could see in the background there Isla Monte Cristo. The other islands, you cannot see it only sometime because they're much, much more flatter than the Monte Cristo. Pomonte, again, the east coast, another beautiful village. And the Gulf of Capoliveri. And the Capoliveri village in itself. Seccheto, again, a tiny little, just a few houses and a tiny little, almost private beach in there. And then another place to see is the Villa Napoleone, the Napoleon Museum. Because as you remember, about the story, Napoleon, first time he's been made prisoner, they took him to the Elba Island in exile, which he only lasts 6 months, then he escaped because obviously Corsica, he wasn't too far away. And here he was treated like an emperor. In lots of places you go around and you could found this writing here, the Napoleon the Great, in the day so and so, he's been sitting down and reading a poem and things like that. But he was treated like an emperor, but he runs away. But I don't know why they treated like that, because Napoleon, to me, was only a thieves anyway. When he was born in Corsica was still Italian, but the one annoyed me most of Napoleon is because he's still the Mona Lisa. He's still the Mona Lisa, now he's in Louvre. And what the Louvre will be without the Mona Lisa? They should send it back. They should send it back where it comes from, send it to Italy. Anyway, this is the Villa Napoleone. We were surprised to find in there the reunion of the Vespa Club. We didn't know. Every year they do meet somewhere. And this year it was here in Elba Island. And they do come from all over Europe. And there was some beautiful specimen of almost brand new Vespa, every color, every imaginary color. And there are lots of people around. They had a little round, go around the island, then they did a big party and so on. But obviously it was a romantic trip because it was 40 years of wedding. But more important, which I didn't tell my darling wife, I was planning to get some special flower as well. So lots of flower there, French lavender, white and pink cistus, onion weed, and broom rape. Broom rape, as I'm not sure if you know, but they are some sort of a parasitic plant which they grow in the roots of other growing trees, a growing plant. The black widow iris, Italia gladioli, and Star of Bethlehem, all Mediterranean flower you could find there in Elba Islands. One of the orchids I was looking, this is the neglected tongue orchid, Serapia neglecta, because he only grows in the Gulf of Liguria, Elba Island, few in Corsica, and very, very, very few in Sardinia. So Elba Island is the best place to see it. A beautiful plant. Then we had some spider orchid, like the black spider orchids, Ophrys incubacea, and mirror orchid. And just look at these two properly. Sometime orchid, they do interbreed between each other, and they give birth to several very funny species. And Elba Island is one of the hybrid between these two plants, the biggest colony in Europe, and of this hybrid, which is this one, Ophrys pantalicensis. And you could see, if I go back, you might see a bit of resemblance in all the two. It's one of the biggest population of this plant. Unfortunately, they all disappearing very quick because everywhere in the Mediterranean, and it's not different even on the Elba Island, is the wild boar. They're eating and digging up everything. If you could see this, they are not proper wild boar. This, unfortunately, they go cross with domestic pigs, and that's from that breeds together came out the super wild boar. It was so many piglets and so big and so strong, is very highly destructive. And they are not scared of anything. They even attacking people sometimes, you know. I remember we went in Sardinia, me and Big John, in Sardinia, in Corsica, me and Big John, and they was even inside of the road, they just shooting them and leave it there because nobody want to eat them anymore. They are all over the place. But the one I was really hoping for, it was this one, the Caunonympha elbana. This little heat is only occurring in Elba Island, which is a real beauty. And only found a very few because the weather was not nice, and obviously I had to put up with what I did found. Finish, go away from living Elba Island, we're going to Corsica. Corsica, we flew to Nice, and from Nice we took a boat to Bastia in Corsica. That's what we did in Corsica, Bastia. Then we went straight down to Bonifacio. From Bonifacio we spent 2 or 3 days in there. Then we Capriano inside the near, and we went up in the mountain. In the mountain we did a lots of mountain around Corte. We did stop. And in the last week we went up to Calvi, and from Calvi we went around the Cape Coast. We take this trip on the ferry, about 6 hours, beautiful ferry, fantastic food. You got the chefs cooking the food in front of you. It doesn't look like here when you're going to Cali early in the morning and you go on for a breakfast. They give you them sausages there. It seems they've been to France and come back 3 or 4 times. You know, there's a lovely food. Down in Bonifacio you got lots of flower. You could see it's the place where all the botanists go because there's lots of limestone. This is the Bonifacio town, and lots of flowers. There's Mediterranean beach daisy, and there is a connection between Bonifacio and Sardinia. It only takes an hour to cross the sea, and there's the boat in there which you go once a day. You could see this is a fantastic area. Lots of botanists in there. Unfortunately, most of the area is being taken up with private villas. It's supposed to be, well, I think they did it after. They did it a park, national park of Bonifacio. But most of the places, there are big villas in it. And all these villas, they are empty because people, they're coming out from France only in the summer. And we found lots of of the flower, they're growing in this sort of abandoned villages as well. So me and Big John, we went around in these gardens as well to see some flower. Place you find in there, bumblebee orchids and Ophrys corsica. You find the sombre bee orchids, the fusca, and Ophrys sommeri, and lots and lots of other plants. It's like this, the tree mallow, white asphodel, and little insects and butterflies as well, brown argus. That's you got the little crab spider waiting for the insects in there to come and nectar in, or just some grasshopper, some crickets. The one we was looking for is the early flowering orchid, Ophrys praecox. We missed that one in Sardinia previous year, about 20 years ago when we went before in Sardinia. We were too late. And so we was hoping they're still in flower, and actually we found it, but not in an open place. We found this in a private garden, which obviously was open, the garden, and we just went in and photographed these lovely orchids, Ophrys praecox, which is the early flowering spider orchids. Lots of wet area, marshes full of loose flowered orchid, Orchis plaxiflora. And in one place, just inland, one of the hill, we was passing in front of this old cemetery, and we saw this papilionese butterfly orchids. We went in and we saw thousands and thousands and thousands. I couldn't believe, I don't think I ever see so many orchids put together. And obviously it was an abandoned cemetery, so it was not grazing of anything. And these orchids, they're just thriving in there. We even found one of the biggest clumps of milky orchid, Orchis lactea, which this is an orchid, is more sort of endemic to Crete, really, but we found it here in Corsica, and a big clumps as well, which you could see it on the site in here in this big picture in there. So we move away from the south. We went to Corte, which is in the middle of Corsica, and from there we go in several valley and mountain. Beautiful town, Corte as well. The old part of the town as well. But we went for base. We went outside Corte. We found an agriturismo. Agriturismo is like a farm which they take people in. And you have breakfast and dinner in there. You eating only what they growing on the farm. It's very cheap, very comfy. And in this case, sitting all the guests together and have dinner, and you got the owner in there entertaining the people with the guitar in time we having a dinner. And this, believe it or not, is where we were sleeping. It's like a shed really, but it's quite comfortable, nice and warm. You got a bunk bed in there. A small bunk bed. I was all right, but Johnny had to sleep with his feet sticking out of the bed because it was much shorter bed for him. But from there we could move everywhere, and it means comes out in the morning and found lots of little flower and grasses to photograph as soon as the sun comes out. The star clovers, the hairstale, and yellow broom rape, all just outside of the bedroom. Insects like the Queen of Spain and the small heat. And just behind this farm, there was a field which he was teeming with orchid. Unfortunately, it was all pegged out with some string, and it was pegged out because a month later they would have started digging up and building a new estate in there. So it was a real disaster for these orchids, really. I don't think they would have been able to do like that in England. They just look, even the lady orchids, which in England is not is quite a common orchids, but there in them island, lady orchid is a very rare orchid indeed. So we went up to the mountain. We did 2 or 3 different valleys, gorgeous Spelunca, Restonica Valley, went up into the Rifugio. I think it was very high up, over 2,000 meters. And photographed plants like the tree heat, common butterwort, 3-cornered leeks, Halium triquarum. And I was surprised to find this Pancatrum illyricum, which you only usually grow in beaches. So obviously in beaches at this day, it would be almost impossible to do. And here in the mountain, it was quite a few plants, and it's still surviving because obviously it's not being touched. It's a flower which I didn't see it for at least over 25 years. It was a very nice find indeed. And one of the things I was checking on this valley, everywhere I go, I was checking for caterpillar or for butterfly around this giant fennel, because it became like an obsession of mine to try to find the Corsican swallowtail. I missed it twice in Sardinia. I didn't find it in here. And it's a butterfly which only occurs Sardinia and Corsica. And I think he is extinct because I could not find it anywhere until about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was looking at a web page of my friend Bob Gibbon. Bob Gibbon is a good photographer, a good book writer, and a tour leader. He's got his own company. And I saw a picture of him of a swallowtail, Corsican swallowtail. So I rang him. I said, Bob, where did you find the swallowtail? I said, I found it in the mountain in Sardinia. I said, I just wasn't looking for it. I just see the specimen coming, resting in there, sunbathing, and I took a picture. I said, please, I've been looking for that butterfly for many years. Sell me a couple of pictures, please. He said, no, I don't got a couple of pictures. I only got one shot, but you can have it. And he sent it to me, and there it is. Corsican swallowtail. This is not my picture. It's Bob Gibbon picture. It is just fantastic, just stunning. And it only occurs Corsica and Sardinia. Just give you the difference. This Corsican swallowtail, it takes two years to develop. So the caterpillar during the summer you have to go in hibernation because the food plant dries up. So it's open to parasitize, it's open from predation, and plus they are fire burning. And this one instead, it could breed even 3 times a year. Then they interbreed in each other as well. And that's what sending the Corsican swallowtail a very red data indeed. Some mountain villages. And in this place, we saw a group of goats coming with 1 dog in front and 1 on the back. Big John there is a vet by job, so he loves every animal. And he was looking for the shepherd. And he was no shepherd. You won't believe it. Intelligent they was, these 2 dogs. They took about 50, 60 goats to graze. And they send him up in these bushes in here. And when one of the goats go out of place, they used to bark and put it back in the group. You know, incredible intelligence. And there, John again in his world, and there found some wild pigs in there. Just as I said, he loves every type of animal. So we know cemetery is the place to look. There is a cemetery, so we went out to have a look, and we found the Dactylorhiza insularis, the Iceland Dactylorhiza, a beautiful plant as well indeed. Provence Orchids, another, this is quite more common. You find it almost in other places. You find it in Sicily, Sardinia, even in Greece, this one. And green winged orchid, Orchids Morio. And they do come in pink color and white color as well. And you go even the cross between the green winged orchid and the papillonese. And this is the cross comes out, Orchis gennari. 3-toothed orchid and dense flower orchid, Neotinea maculata. Again, quite beautiful plant indeed. And I think we're going to take a break in here, and then we'll start. And so you design which what time of break you're going to have, and then we'll be back. Okay.
Thank you very much, Gianpiero.
Thank you.
Probably we'll have 10 minutes on, do you think?
Yeah, that's fine for me. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, everybody, can you come back at 25 minutes to 9, please? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Alan, if you want to take back the screen so everybody can, if anybody wants to ask questions of Gianpiero, I'm sure if he's not, is still sat in his chair, he'll be happy. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, can you all see me?
Yes.
Oh.
If anybody's got any questions, please fire away. I'm sure Gianpiero will be only too pleased to answer if he can do.
Well, I suppose flower is not everybody cup of tea, you know, but they're still beautiful, really, really beautiful to see. And this particular one, they are really fantastic. But on top of that, when you're taking this trip, you're just exploring because you don't know what you could find. And there's a lots of other stuff in there you really could find. You could say I'm interested a lot on insects as well. So quite a few butterflies, they do come out, which is something you never see before. And the next part, you will see one or two birds as well. Even if for birds, you need to be a little bit more specialized. You have to have a carry big lens with you, which we never do. The only maximum we do only 300 mil. But there's a lots of possibility and it's nice because you go away after the winter, you know, cold winter, you just go in this lovely Mediterranean weather. And you just, you know, love. I've been doing this for many years. I didn't done any on the last 3 years. Last year because of COVID, this year the same. But I'll soon be going back at least in some places which I never been. And one of the things I found where you've been on a place, and I went back several years after, you should never do that. Never, because what you see the first time is not there the second time. Everything's disappearing so quick and it's heartbreaking. Really disappearing fast, everything's fast. Agriculture and development is an incredible thing.
Gianpiero, do you ever use any flash on any of your
No, I don't like
all
that.
natural light?
I give you background, black background, I don't. I use a reflector if I need it. A reflector to put some light back on the specimen. If it's necessary, I go a little bit of wind, or we try to shelter with a camera bag or the reflector and so on. Otherwise, I'll use a little sticks next to the flower, put a little sticks, then I wrap the flower, the sticks with some grass together, you know, because if you make sure you don't break the flower at all, make sure, because you it's absolutely not to damage the flower. I put some grass to tie it with the sticks, and then with the pegs, I'll clip the grass, so it keep the flower without shaking. You know what I mean? So it give you with the remote control, you're waiting when it doesn't move, and you could go, especially now with the introduction. I never done it, obviously, because it wasn't there on the past, but with the introduction of stacking, I suppose it will be even fantastic picture than before, you know, because you have a possibility on this stacking system to do it.
Thank you. Gianpiero, because you've been going there for so long, how's the biodiversity and the quantity of plants changed over time?
Oh, a lot. I'm talking about my country. They still discovering quite a lot because it's not been. Well, they said discovered. It's only because they're splitting up all the time. They're doing this DNA test. You know, they find out they are different. They even changed the name. But in quantity, especially, is just incredible. One of the biggest destruction for me, it was Cyprus. Cyprus, when the first time 20 years ago, we stayed, I can't remember, it was the town we stayed, and the hotel we were staying, he was on the verge of the town. I went back the last time 4 years ago, and that hotel, it was on the middle of the town. They've been built so much, it's unbelievable. And then the other big destruction, is this big machinery they go now. Before they couldn't do any, and they could not use the macchia, the Mediterranean macchia, not just in Cyprus, but everywhere. Spain particularly is as an incredible. You will see a picture of Spain. It's unbelievable. Before it was Mediterranean macchia, bushes and cistus and things like that, and lots of limestone rocks and boulders and big rocks. They couldn't do anything. Now they got this huge tractor, and they'll just go in and they pull in all the rocks out, they pull in all the bushes, and they rotate in the soil, they improve it, and they make crop field. And obviously, all the macchia is gone. And top of that, olives grow. They used to be the best place for flower growing. But now, with the intensity of the new agriculture, so if you leave grass on there, before they used to have sheep, no, now nobody uses sheep anymore, because you could get your lamb from England, from Ireland, from New Zealand, much cheaper than you could produce it in continent. And as well, it's not the really popular meat, the sheep in continent. So obviously, in this olive grow, the best things to do is just rotivate, put weed killer down, kill everything. And so when you collect the olives, they just put the nets down. They go with this tree, they call it the tree shaker, and all the olives come down, and it's no problem just to pull the nets and get all the crop in one go without going through the grass and collect it. Yeah, I'm afraid that modern agriculture is a big disaster for wildlife. And on top of that, obviously, it would be birds, it would be insects, it's everything, follow up, because they are nothing left. How many of you in the group, they like to do wildlife picture?
Yeah.
2. And Jeff, I suppose 3. I cannot see everybody in here, but
Mary tries sometimes.
Gianopiero, what
Yeah.
sort of lenses and settings and cameras are you using to get those butterflies and flower photographs, please?
I'll make you laugh now. Right. My wide angle shots, and then there are some bird shots. They are done with a Canon 7D. For macro lenses, which will be a lots of them flower, they're macro lenses, is done with a toy camera.
Did you say there? I thought you said toy camera.
A toy, yes, it's a toy. It's not a camera.
Sorry.
It's a toy camera. I'll show you now. Right. Let me put the battery in there a second.
No.
All right. Right. Can you see it in here? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that, better, like that. Right. That's it, the camera. This is just a sort of a zoom. Wait a minute, let me switch it on first. Right, switch it on.
It's a bridge camera.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
look
see
at
that one? Just,
Yeah.
yeah. This is for the normal, but for macro lens, then you go this metal tube, you just screw it on top in the air. And this metal tube, you go a Leica little lens in here. That's important, a Leica lens. You put this one in front. And that's my macro camera, macro lens camera. And it's fantastic detail, really. My Canon macro lens, it doesn't take as good shot as this one. I mean, this is a very old camera. It could be some better one on the market, but this is my favorite for macro lenses, for insects, for moths, for flower. I just found that you cannot beat it. The only thing, there's some limitation, obviously. If you shoot over 100 ASO, is a bit grainy. And you only go maximum f8. That's the maximum you could go. But f8 is like an f16 in a normal camera. And you could still, it's not a big sensor, but you could make with no problem an A3 picture.
Thank you for that, Gianpiero.
Okay.
It's
You know,
now.
if you could see, there are some pictures. I don't know if you could see them around in there, and that's the sort of picture you could get out. An A3 is no problem from that.
I think we can go back now. It's nearly 20 minutes to, so we've gone a little over time.
Yeah. Okay, so let me go back. So we share the screen. Share the screen. Put this one close in there.
Dragonfly.
Sorry? Yeah, but no, it's not that the one that's coming. Yeah. That we're on, yes?
Welcome back, sir.
Yeah, okay, right. Now the second part. So we finished before we were on Corsica. Now we move away from Corsica and we go to Sardinia. Sardinia, can you see, I've been in 1988. It was the only time I did 4 weeks, 1 month in Sardinia. Again, 1988 was during the slides time, and it was when orchids hunting and for photograph and so on, it was just coming popular, which now is very popular, but at that time it wasn't so popular. But when we were the first time, we crossed from above to Genoa to down in here, Olbia. No, sorry, down in here. And then we went all around. We covered Sardinia, left and right and center, mountain and everything. We even met 3 other young guys in there, which they was interested in orchids, and they took us everywhere really to see all the unknown place. We had a fantastic time. And the second time, it was in 2009, and it was only a week, and we stopped around this area in Reds in here. We in this dot, we hire a villa. We were in 6 people at the time. We hire a villa, and we went around search, and believe me, a week it was not enough really to discover everything. We move in here in this island, Sant'Antioco, which is the island is well known where you could photograph, where you could see the Eleonora's falcon, which is the only falcon which he nests in end of August, September, because he lives on the migrating birds when they coming back and they go back to the North Africa, and it's a very rare bird indeed. But anyway, so as I said, we move in this area in here. Just in the mountain, just away from the sea, we hired this villa. It was belonged to a German chap, which I suppose he go there during the summer. We were there in the beginning of April, and you got all the comfort you want. You got actually 4 big bedroom and the kitchen and so on, and it was more than enough for 6 people, all couples. And that gave us the opportunity as well at night to do lots of moth trapping. We bought a collapsible moth trap, one of these portable one with us. And because we were interested to see what's coming in spring in the Mediterranean country. And lots of stuff's coming. So the first couple of hours in the morning, from past 6 in the morning until around 9 o'clock, it was past just photographing the moths which they come in the moth trap. Then we had a breakfast, and then we used to go out. No rush, take it very easy, you know. So some of the moths we had in there, the Ophusa tiraca, which is a large moths which only occur in the southern part of the Mediterranean. We had embellished thorn, which again, it doesn't occur anything like that in England. We had moths like this one, which it does occasionally get recorded in England, the lunar double stripe as well, because it's a migrant, and sometimes you got some 1 or 2 records a year. You got this beautiful one, the beautiful copper underwings. You see how I call it beautiful because all the lovely marking is going his wings. Go like the Jersey tiger, which it flies at night, but it's a day flying moths as well. And when it flies, obviously show up these lovely red underwings. We have a pine lappet, which is a big moths, which the caterpillar feeds on pine, and there are quite a lot of Mediterranean pine around there. Large emerald as well, keeps his wings flat like a butterfly, but absolutely this really greenish emerald color. And when you got it in mint condition, it's just a super moth to photograph. We had like the striped hawk moths, Iles lineata, or in privet hawk moths as well. Privet hawk moths, it does occur in England, and the striped is a migrant. Sometimes you do find you get some records coming in from Europe. That said, hawk moths, again, you got some records in here, but not as many, but there is quite abundant in there. Feeds on potato plant, and it is known to be quite a thieves to go in bee houses and steal the honey. And is one of the only, not one, is the only moths which is quick. You actually, if you don't know, when you touch these moths, you go, it's very strange things, you know. You don't expect these things like that from a moth, but it does squeak. And apparently they said they do this sort of squeak when they enter the bee hive as well. It looks like a calming noise. They said, you know, not that is true, but they call that old moths because, you know, it's with the sign of the skull in here. This is perhaps the most beautiful of the European one, the Leander of moths, which again it does feed in oleander leaves. Not occurring in this country. I don't think there's actually many records as well of this one. Very few. And the other one which could be easy encounter is the hawk moths, Marumba quercus, because this the caterpillar of these large moths is specializing on feeding on the leaves of the cork oak, and obviously cork oak in Sardinia and a little bit in Corsica. On the past, it was a very big business. There was lots of plantation which they collect in the cork. I think every 10 years they do this big bar. But now, unfortunately, the cork is in decline because most of the corks they used to use for decoration tiles, but more than anything, they used to be for bottles. And now they're using all this sort of plastic things, so corkscrews. So to have a plantation of oak, the oak coat is not valuable anymore. It's not profitable anymore. So this is a moth which is on the way out. Butterfly there we did find Eastern Dapple White, Painted Lady, and Speckled Wood. You could see it's even redder in this part of the Mediterranean, almost orangey color, even more than in the mountain, and especially even more than here in England, which in England is sort of brownish yellow in here. In bushes, buckthorn bushes, you look around, if you look properly, there's no problem to find pupa or even caterpillar of the Cleopatra butterfly. Cleopatra butterfly is this one. It looks like a brimstone, but you could see this, you photograph it against the light, it could show you why it's a Cleopatra, because the inside of the wings, especially the male one, they are orange. They are not yellow like the brimstone. You can only see this orange if the butterfly flies around. That's the Cleopatra. That's what distinguishes it from the brimstone. Plus, it's a little bit bigger butterfly, but that's difficult to see it if you don't see one next to another. But the one really is the jet, really, the jet butterfly of the Mediterranean is this, the two-tailed pasha. And you found it all over the Mediterranean, but most of the time you can only see in decaying fruit when they come down and drink sugar from the fruits. Otherwise, you only see some very, very fast brown shadow flying away in front of you. You don't have absolutely a chance to look at it, you know. Or you could do, if you got time and you got people doing it for you, in some place they do it, they'll put in sugary bits on tree trunks, you know, where it does occur. But mainly this butterfly, it feeds on the strawberry tree in Corbezzolo Unedo, I think it's called. But it's a two-tailed pasha. It's a real stonky butterfly, a real beauty. And that's as well in the strawberry tree. That is beautiful caterpillar, and it's fantastic pupa. Very well camouflaged under the leaves. Near Cagliari, they're not too far away, about three-quarter an hour, half an hour from where we are, is the capital, Cagliari. Just outside Cagliari, there are some salt pan. And in this salt pan, there's lots of birds, really. Mainly, it was the greater flamingo. I think there are about 500-600 pair nesting in there. So lots of time there was they were spending to photograph this greater flamingo. Some they was fighting, some they was courtships and things like that. But the beautiful birds, really, and you could get quite near it. It wasn't scared at all. And again, this is a pretty old trip we did. I think it was 2009, so nearly 15 years ago. And black-winged stilt and egrets and so many as well. Black-winged stilt actually is the national birds of Italy. They'll call it Cavaliere d'Italia. It means the Italian knight, with the K in front, the Italian knight. Another beautiful bird, it was the slender-billed gull, which is a bird, we're thinking about the gull eating up all the leftover and the rubbish and going in discarded places. This one, he only lives on this water, and it's a bit like the flamingo. He only eats the little krills on this water. And when they breathe in his chest, he actually become a tiny little bit pink in color. So it's quite a good group in there as well. And sticking all together, a very, very elegant bird. You see there is all, they mate him as well in there. Yeah, that's the slender-billed gull. Other birds around, corn bunting, another very abundant birds as well, and just in top of this metal post in there, puffing his chest out and calling and advertising his territory. Interesting bird to see is Passer hispanoliensis, the Spanish sparrow, and Sardinian warbler. One of the things we found, if you find a little pot of water, little puddle, especially if you had a little thunderstorm or something like that, it's always nice to stop with the car on the side of this puddle, and there's always some birds coming out or drinking or bedding in there. And in this case, we had the Spanish sparrow before and the Sardinian warbler. Stone chat as well, quite a lot of stone chats around. This is the typical Mediterranean macchia where we go in and search for flower. Very, very thick bushes. This is the macchia, but then there are woodlands as well, which are very good for orchids. And this particular one is the spurge of Moths caterpillar. I never found the adult, the moths yet. I found several times the caterpillar, especially looking on the spurge. If you see any leaves chewed up and you look properly, it's always turning up one of these splendid, colorful caterpillar. There's actually two variations. One is completely yellow with black spots, and this one is the red and black spots. Going around as well, this is just under the shadow among the rocks as well. You find some plant which you recognize it in this country as well. Wall pennywood, we got some lichen there, cyclamen and fern, several different species of fern. And here, some little saxifraga and wild peony. Obviously, they do occur quite a lot in there, and they are different. I got some peony in the garden, but sometimes they flower. I don't even notice them they flower, but when you see them on the wild, it really looks beautiful, really different plant. The one we was looking for in there, orchid point of view, is this one. This is the real endemic, not just of Sardinia, but endemic from the south of Sardinia. Chesterman Offris chestermani. And it's been discovered only in 1986. And guess by who? Just the name I give you, Chesterman orchids. A man from Chester, an Englishman from Chester. So we call it Offris chestermanii. And then is only found in this area. A beautiful, one of the late spider, really particular plant, beautiful. Then another endemic of Sardinia and Corsica, Offris morisi. This is a very prolific, I would say prolific, one of the orchids which they could produce more flower than anybody else. We found one plant with 18 flowers. Usually orchids, they do 3, 4, 5, even 6, but that's at 18. Obviously, it was only they left to the top 2 or 3, they was in good condition. The other one, they already passed their best. But 18 flowers in an Offris plant is incredible. Offris morisi, as I said, just Sardinia and Corsica. And there it is, some more variation of the Offris morisi. Black spider orchids, we saw one shot from Elba Islands, but this is very common in here as well, and still very beautiful. If you imagine orchids, they do come in sets of 3. These are the sepal, 1, 2, and 3. And then they got the petals. The petal is 1, 2, and 3. This is part of the petal. It's like the lily, they're all coming in 3. But you wondered sometime how the black of the orchids it is. Well, you never see many pictures with the black of the orchids. That's what it looks like, the bottom sepal. And they're almost like that. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. Black spider orchids, Offris incubacea. We got bee orchids. That's well known very well from this country as well. A long spurred orchid. Again, an orchid which you could find Sardinia, Sicily, Corsica, and Majorca. That's the 4 places you could find this one. Serapias, well, you see this, they grow in a private garden, and lots of them. Serapia is a very common orchids on this part of the Mediterranean, especially Sicily and Sardinia and Corsica. Art, floweret, tongue, Serapia, this one. Then we have the endemic from Sardinia, Serapia norica. So distinguishes for this white ball here, Serapia norica. And again, we got the very rare in Sardinia, is more common in Elba Island, but the Serapia neglecta, which we see them before. Then the long-lipped tongue orchid, Serapia vomeracea in this part in here, and small floweret Serapia on the left. There are so many Serapian variation, and but it's one of the plant is quite difficult to separate from one to another if you are not an expert, really. The most common one, obviously, and an unmistakable one, is the tongue orchid, Serapia lingua. And this particular one, I really like this shot. It's got about 30 or 35 plants in it. It's not many group you find as big as this. Orchis muscula ovalis. That's one type of the variation of the early purple orchids grows in Italy. And then we had Orchis ignusae. I have to tell a story about this one. But first time when we went in 1988, we at that time all the orchids in Sardinia, they wasn't all known. So we found these orchids, and to see the yellow center like that and the shade, we thought it was an Orchis provincialis, the Provence orchid. And the provincialis, every book, the provincialis, Orchis provincialis, is yellow color, because that's yellow. So we said, we never saw a pink one. So we discovered a new orchids in here. So all excited, was Ralph and Big John, we all excited to think about. He was thinking already what sort of name to give them. You know, we was going to call it Orchid provincialis suspicious Britannica, because they funded by British. And to find out, when we came back home and we sent this picture to Germany, where they keep all the records and detail, 2 weeks before us, a professor from the University of Cagliari registered these orchids, and he called it Orchis ignusae. So we missed out for about a couple of weeks. A few lizard, green lizard, spiny tiger lizard, and European tree frogs. And now we live in Sardinia. We're going to Menorca. My friend Big John is got a place in there, and he invited me a couple of times. They're lovely, beautiful, beautiful islands. This is near Maon, as El Castel, where he's got his place in there. Is the windmill at the entrance of the town. This is the lovely port, just 10 minutes of walk from his place. You go down in the evening. It's such a relaxed area. You are out on the field all day. You're coming back, you have a nice shower, and you go down there. It's one restaurant after another, and it's so quiet, so relaxing. Good food, very cheap. Really, really, really a super, super, super place. Photograph a few pictures on the capital, the port of Mahon. And then lots and lots of beautiful beaches around, and not very popular, not full of people at this time of the year. This is in April, but even so, there are so many beaches and not overcrowded, because some of these beaches you'll have to walk quite a bit before you reach them, and not everybody is prepared to walk. They like to go there with the car, just jump out of the car and sit down and lay down on the beach. Which so I think Menorca is a special place for these little places, little beaches, and so on. And again, this is one of the beaches where they go a big hotel. I cannot remember what it calls now. This is the Playa De Caballeros, and this is Escastel, I think it is. Cap de Favorix, a beautiful point in there with this lighthouse. And in the west of Menorca, lots of this construction things that have been done, the local one, but the real reason why they are there, I just don't know. I never been researching for that. But when I going to speak to my friend, I was going to ask him why, what is the history behind about this search. And there's a place in there with a lighthouse, a Punta Nati. I really like it very much. This place is so open and beautiful, with lots of these flowers, especially bird's foot trefoil. They're all abandoned building, really, apparently, but it's just a real gem, you know. And I suppose if you are a landscape photographer, you go there at sunrise or sunset, you could really get some winner out of this. Sometime in the south coast, especially, you got some very rough weather coming in. You could see from the left-hand side picture, when you get a bit nearer, you want to get a bit nearer to photograph this wave crashing, and that's what you're gonna get. I just managed to bend down and cover all my equipment, but I was completely soaked with this shower. It just a big wave. It just came in, caught me out. That's fantastic anyway, just to see this big wave crushing all over the place. I suppose here in Cornwall they're even bigger than these, but still lovely to see. They have a reserve in there, Albufera des Graus, and I've been reading in one of these little inlets or things like that, they go an endemic lizard, believe it or not, and a lizard which only occur in this sort of inlet like that. How can a lizard survive in these little inlets? I don't know, but that's what I've been reading about, this endemic lizard. I was out on the beach once and I looked at this gull and I said, 2 rings. Oh, I mean, I always argue with bird ringer because they said you do it on purpose just to spoil the picture to photographer. And 2 rings, I said that's a bit too much. And a seagull as well, it's unbelievable. But then when they told me what sort of gull it is, I understand why. This Adonis gull is one of the rarest gull in the Mediterranean. Very, very, very rare indeed. It's actually only a few specimens on the Balearic Islands and 1 or 2 on Sardinia. The rest you cannot see anything. And just look the next one what happened. That one is due anyway because it's been swallowing some fish hooks or things like that. That's I did try to catch him, but he couldn't get nearer, so I don't think he would have survived very long. I photographed a blue rock thrush in there. It took me a couple of days of chasing and pointing and hiding, but I was able to do it. And lots of linnets around, flocks of linnets, beautiful. And the best way to photograph them, if you find the puddle, just wait around the puddle. Sooner or later, they come around and drinking and bathing and things like that. Lovely birds, really. Corn bunting again and goldfinches. Again, they're coming in near to that little puddle of water where I set up my tripod. And Spanish waxtail, Monticilla flava iberiae. The most invasive plant of the Mediterranean. You find it everywhere. Oxalis pesca prayer, the Bermuda buttercup. I don't know where it comes from. I do believe it does come from South Africa, but it's so invasive now. In some places, it's unbelievable. It's just a pest, really. One of the sea bushes, cotton lavender, Santolina camachensis, cotton lavender, and a lovely, beautiful little bushes. Mediterranean beach daisies in the real habitat. Sockerel, this is the endemic to Menorca and Mallorca. Sockerel lunea cervicornis. Cervicornis means stags, deer stags, cervicornis. And that's why the reason. If you by mistake, you put your foot on one of these bushes in here, you will soon find out what it means, cervicornis. They're very, very painful. I put my foot on one of these little slipper you put between your toe, you know, and they went through the foot, you know, through the sole of this slipper. It was quite painful. But it's a lovely flower anyway. But the one that really astonished me is the amount of this beautiful southern bird's foot trefoil. Look, it's everywhere, all around the island. And when it's in full flower, it's a real spectacle, really. And obviously, little butterfly like the Argus and the common blue, little blue and so on, they really thriving on this area because obviously that's all the food plant they do need. Common lavender as well, common sea lavender, lovely again in its habitat, growing among the crevices of the rocks. And believe it or not, in April, you find fungi in Mallorca, sorry, Minorca, magpie inca, oh, the drink went, went wrong time, and basket stink horn. Excuse me. Insects as well. Leptura cordillera, this long-horned beetle, beautiful. Again with this shield, black shield and red carapace, really striking color. And this one in here is a caterpillar of the swallowtail, and was several in the food plant. Food plant is the giant fennel, and was several of these caterpillar on feeding. Sorry. Pyramidalis orchids. Yes, these are really special in Menorca because most of the Pyramidalis orchids all over Europe, they are pinkish in color. In here, the main species, they are white. I saw before some odd one white, but not as many in Menorca. A real speciality of the island. And the other speciality, obviously, endemic of the Balearic Island is the Balearic orchids, Ophrys balearica. And it's quite abundant as well in there, and is flowering from the end of March, beginning of April, and so on. Just and I have to thank my friend, which he invited me, and I was able to photograph this real little gem. And lots of tortoises and tiny little baby. On my second trip in there, when I was in there, I saw some people around, two younger people, a young man and a young woman. They was out and collecting all these baby. And when I asked them why they collected, they was collecting it to sell in pet shop. That was a very naughty thing to do. I didn't like it very much, but there's nothing I could do about them, I'm afraid. But the lovely things, you know, just anyway, this tortoise. Then we moved to Spain, Andalusia. Again, I go with my friend Big John in Andalusia. I went there in April 2012, and I went in 92, which during the slides time. But to be fair, in Andalusia, I've been several times. Most of the time I was in Cordoba because my son has been living there for nearly 5 years, teaching, he's a teacher, and he was teaching in an English school. And so I've been in the city of Cordoba for several times. I've been visiting a few places, but in 2012, we went there just for a botanic tour, just me and John. The city of Cordoba is just an incredible city. It's not been discovered much by photographers, but it's a real gem. One of the main things is this, the Mezquita, which is a cathedral. It's a Catholic cathedral, but it was built by the Maori. You know, it's just like a mosque, and inside it looks like if it's not really a Catholic, but it is. They never Catholics. They never destroyed it because it was so beautiful. Instead to destroy it, even if it was a different religion, when the Spanish went back under the Catholic religion, they didn't destroy it. They decided to preserve it because it was such a stunning building. This is inside the garden inside with the bell tower. This is the Roman bridge. This is where they done the film, the throne, the power of throne or something like that. The Game of Thrones, yes, the Game of Thrones. This is one an antique jail as well. And this is the main square. You go there in the evening, they're all out and drinking. No one shouting, just talking, drinking, all happy, long evening, really relaxing time to be. It seems on this city in Spain, they never work. They always out and enjoy it. They start to go out at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the evening, and they are up until 4 o'clock. There are people around. They said New York never sleep, but if you go in the city, you hear noise until 4 o'clock in the morning, then it's 2 hours of silence, and then 6 o'clock the traffic starts again. And that's the outside of the Mezquita, some Roman ruin in there, and that's the Roman bridge. and this lovely, lovely little, like, you could spend days and days and days and days just to go around and photograph them. One year we went down, it was during the Flamenco Festival, which it lasts an entire week, and is a spectacular, spectacular place. All the ladies, I mean 90% of the ladies, they all dressing up in flamenco. They dressing up car and horses and this flamenco, they go in parade, they go around. It's like they call it, oh, fiera, no, I can't remember what they call it exactly in Spanish, but it's like a festivity, like a festival. I'll just give you an idea. This is about 2 o'clock at night. 5 years old children out dancing, singing, dancing the flamenco and enjoying themselves. Can you imagine in this country, if you get your kids 5 years, 6 years old out and dancing in the night, you'd be in jail. Even myself, I feel so uncomfortable when I was there and take the picture, because I said, oh my goodness me, if I'm in England, they arrested me as a pedophile, But here, actually, the parents, they are quite happy, if you take a picture. It's a normal thing in here. And just to give you the idea how elegant the lady they are, all around in these beautiful, beautiful flamenco dresses, The only things, if you ask them, I found that if you ask them to take a photograph, they don't really like it very much. So you'll have to snap them, really, when they're passing around, because they not pose for you properly. Another city with John we went, it was Ronda. Ronda is famous because it's where Bizet he wrote his opera of the Carmen, and it's this town out in this alto piano, which he comes out in here and looking down on the flat area there. It's actually out in the, that's where the Rondas finish, all these things, this sort of river going through in here, lots of choff in there, Alpine choff living in there. And Seville as well is another place we go. Everybody going into Valencia. I think we're going. No, sorry, not Valencia. What's the other the city? They're going looking for their modern building. They go and photograph. I think they go in the wrong place. The place to go actually is this one. Is Seville. Is a really, really beautiful town. And this building in here is the building where they did some of the Star Wars film and some of the Lawrence d'Arabia film. Another beautiful town is Antequera. It's not far away from Cordoba. Lots of historical building in there. And this one, they call it the Sleeping Indian. Just look at this mountain in here. It looks like a face of an Indian chief laying down. Can you see it? There, the nose, the chin, the mouth. Yeah. They call it the Sleeping Indian. And above the Antequera, you go the Torcal National Park as well. It's not a very big park, but it's a big lump put together, all these rocks of limestone put together. And it's got quite a few animals in there, particularly the Spanish Ibex. This time of the year, they all got little babies, so they're just relaxing around and feeding and relaxing on the sun. It would be nice to go back in September, October during the rutting time when you see the male fighting, really. From there, we'll move on the Pueblos Blancos, which is on the historical route of the tourist of Andalusia. You go up in the ice part of Andalusia, and you got this Pueblos Blanco, all the town, they're painted in white, obviously, because they reflect the sun, and very historical, very beautiful, narrow streets to see. But where we was aiming, it was even above, we was aiming up on the mountain in here and looking for flower and insects and so on. And believe it or not, when we were in there, we had snow on the mountain in April, snow in Spain. There is John photographing this little lovely wild daffodil. Actually, the daffodil, they originated from Andalusia, the proper mother plant of the daffodil. We found Fritillaria lusitanica and even this strange Portuguese sundew, which you could see how it's trapping insect. This is what clouded yellow butterfly traps in there. Butterfly, they're around as well, scarce swallowtail. and Spanish festoon, which is a real beauty too. Butterfly like the Moroccan orange tip, Southern gatekeeper, and Portuguese double white. What I was saying before during the interval about the destruction. In Spain, in Andalusia, I could say, you know, the destruction is incredible to believe it. You have to see it to believe. This used to be all Mediterranean macchia before, all of them, bushes and after bushes. Now you go, you're driving with the car or even going with the train, and you go for hours, and you can only see olives, plantation, olives, no end of olives. This tree, in a few years, when they will start putting fruits on it, I suppose Spain will have enough oil to supply all the world. And why they do it? They do it first because they got the sponsorship from the European community. Secondly, they said they want to cut down the fire because obviously they said Macchia Mediterranea goes up easy in flame. So they said they do it for that. And not just that, but even the road birch, they used to be full of flower. Now they burning with the blowtorch, they burning all the vegetation on the road birch just to avoid to catch fire during the hot day of the summer. So ecological point of view is a real disaster. The first time we went, we found orchids everywhere. Now we really find it a little bit hard today to find some good spots with orchid, like the woodcock orchid, which is the name is the Scalopax orchid. We found champagne orchids, Ophrys diris, and Southern early purple orchids, Orchis olbiensis, and this one Orchis atlantica, which it grows. What's the place you fly in? Valencia? No, it's not Valencia. Malaga, yes. You fly in Malaga. Years ago, it used to be outside Malaga. It used to be this, which is a clay pigeon shooting private place, and it's the only place in all Europe you could find this orchid because it's an orchid that comes from Africa. This one, North Africa, it's not a European one. The only place is there, and now it's in the center of Malaga. This one because it's been expanded so much. So I suppose eventually when they will sell that private clay pigeon shooting, this will be another plant to be completely extinct in Europe, Ophrys atlantica. Now we go away from there, we're going to Sicily. Sicily, again, I've been in 1990, which I went around all Sicily. We start from this area down south, north, then we went to the Valley of the Temple in Agrigento. We went down to Palermo. Me and my friend, we went to see Corleone because Corleone is the place of the Godfather. So I remember when we went in there, we was expecting to find, like you see on the film, you know, all the women dressed up in black dresses, cover, and everybody really don't talk in an old town. It was completely different. We was shocked. We arrived in there. It was such a beautiful, modern little city. We had the bars and restaurants, hotel everywhere. A real beautiful, really modern place. And it was a big thunderstorm at that moment. So we didn't stop because it was this thunderstorm. And it's up on the hill, this Corleone. At one point, we decided, as soon as the water stopped raining, we decided to go back. And down in the road, there was this river, these brooks of water running down from the mountain. We're just going down, and we hit one of the manhole, which was covered with the water, and we splashed an enormous big splash of water. In the same time, and I was a chap in there, was opening his Mercedes car, and we really soaked him, and we filled his car with water. We didn't did it on purpose. And he went so mad, you know, so we had to run away and hide in the first street we could find, you know, because he was quite scared. He was really, really mad with us. But anyway, you go in Sicily, so you cannot go to Sicily without Mount Etna. You go up in Mount Etna with a cable car, and when you are half of the way through, you take a snow bus and the snowboats will take you almost to the top of Mount Etna. We didn't go to the top. We only stay at the cable car station. As you could see in here, just look at these people in here. Just see what amount of snow you get in Mount Etna during the winter. Incredible. Everything is flat. In this place, you still got some mosses and some lichen and some things coming out. I suppose it takes quite a few decades before they start growing some vegetation on it. And you go around and look in the side, especially in the south part where it's always erupting, you find all this area of woodland. Some of these rocks, they even still warm really, and you could tell there has been burning all the trees down. And this on the northern part, this is the city of Randazzo. Can you imagine living all your life in here and you never know if you're going to really explode? But it never happened. It always went on the other side. And this is a beautiful area. You got some lovely woodland. I remember I went in this woodland, and it was a down chorus of birds in there. It was just magic, magic, magic. You just sit down and listen to this bird singing. And there was so many you could see everywhere. There was million of these spring showbread, cyclamen repandum everywhere. It was a beautiful place to be. Plan we found that slopes in there. We found the great brown rape, which it grew on the roots of the genista bushes. We found some peony again, wild peony. We found some yellow asphodel or king spear, day flying burnets. The speciality of this place is the Marcosi orchids, the Dactylorhiza marcosi, and the 4 spotted orchids, Orchis quadripuntata. And this is the endemic of Mount Etna, crescent orchids, Ophrys lanuleta. And this is a typical Panormitana early spider orchid, which the main growing area is in Sicily. Then we move on the south, on the area of Ragusa. And in a way through there, we find lots of these villages, typical Sicilian villages stuck up on the mountain, on the hills. And they do a village on top, and they leave all the lands around to grow. Obviously, they don't live like that anymore. Lots of them, they work in factory, in shops, on agriculture or tourism and so on. But they're lovely whole city, with some fantastic building really to photograph. And we moved down in an area near Ferla. We took up again another agriturismo near. It looks like van, but it's a lovely place. It's like a farm. You got your bedroom in there with shower and everything. Everything's cooked, is produced locally. And on top of that, you are out on the country. You just walk out of this field and look what habitat you go. You are really on the wild habitat. You go flower and insects and everything, just to go out to do an hour of photography before your breakfast. And we just come out at night. You could see there's lots of lights in here around. And we come out in the morning, just look around these lights, and we found lots of beautiful moths. This one is the largest European moths, greater emperor moths. Show you, if you look at your hands now, and just imagine that moths in your hands, which you fill your hands, it give you an idea how big it is. And we done southern festoon in there. We done a Queen of Spain fritillary. We done Eastern orange tip, green vein white, and southern swallowtail. That's the European swallowtail number 3, is the smallest one. They only occur in Sicily and in the Greek islands. Lots of orchids. This is the Orchis Italica, Naked Man orchids. That's Big John, and that's Martin Withers. Things. Jeff Trinder, you know him very well. He was his friend. Now he's not with us anymore, unfortunately. And speciality on this area is the Sicilian spider orchid. Just have a look. Have to remember the Latin name, Oxyrhynchos. Impossible to write and read this name, really. And the other one is Ophrys licetia, one of the few, very few yellow late spider orchids. This is a necropolis of Pantalica, which in the ancient time they used to bury the dead people in there. Obviously, all limestone, and there's lots and lots of flower around and plant and so on, like Ophrys sicula, birds too, crested lark, butchart shrike, willow warbler, common white throat, little serin. Ooh, the water is cold. Cold bunting again. And bee eater, we just have coming in from North Africa at this time of the year. And house martin, which at this time of the year, they already building nest in there. Now we move away from Sicily, we're going to Gargano Peninsula. Gargano Peninsula is just that little area like that. It's known to be the hottest spot in Europe for orchids. That little place like that has got nearly 100 species of orchids, and it's this part. I didn't go any picture of the beautiful coast. They have a very, very, very popular holiday coast around here, Vieste and so on, because obviously I went in there for flower and insects. I went first time in '85 with the slides, and 2005 and 6 as a driver with my friend Martin Witter, which he was taking his client for an organized tour in there for 10 days both year. So obviously we was concentrated inside here and the Foresta Ombra, which is the mountain with the big forest in there. So that's the place we look in there. So giant orchid, Balia robertiana, is one of the things to look for in there, and it's one of the early flowering one. And 4-spotted orchids as well in there, 4-spotted, and so sparsely flowered orchid, Orchis pauciflora, Roman orchid, Dactylorhiza romana, again another orchids which is quite widespread, Gargano, Sicily, and Greek island. And monkey orchids, which we do have here in England as well, but the odd specimen they do occur due to in there. Don't have to tell you why I call monkey orchids, because the close-up of the flower will show you exactly what it is. And the two speciality of Gargano, Ophrys bertoloni and Ophrys bertoloni formis. Don't tell me it's not a spider orchid, this one. It's a proper spider orchid, look in there. And perhaps what everybody considers the biggest spider orchid in Europe, Orchis apulica, Ophrys apulica, the Apulian orchids. That's a very, very large flower indeed. Not a plant. The plant is not very big, but the flower, yes, it's huge, huge flower. Then another spectacle orchids, only grows in Gargano and in the Peloponnese. Ophrys exaltata. This is a orchids is more abundant on Croatia across the Tyrrhenian Sea, but it's not too far away. Obviously, some seeds they came around in Gargano and they found the right place to grow as well. Another two from Gargano, which they are endemic. Gargano Ophrys garganica, a Siponto orchids, Ophrys sipotensis. This is quite widespread, the left one, but the right one is very, very rare indeed. And Ophrys sawfly orchids, Ophrys entredimifera. Lots of tongue orchids as well, many, many species. And white flower too, Barberinot Cynandriris sicyrhynchium. Wild narcissi, Italian gladioli, and friar coals, Arisarium vulgare. Dwarf bearded iris, Aries pumila. That's Darius is quite a small iris, really. It's only about five inches tall. Oxbeard, Crepis rubra, and lots of anemones, which you don't find many fields like that of anemones anymore, because, as I said before, they all get destroyed as well by agriculture. Dutchman pipe, which is the food plant, actually the southern I forgot the name of the butterfly. Festoon, southern festoon. And the caterpillar fruit is feed in Aristolochia histolochia. And some of the species of the anemone you could find, anemone blanda and anemone pavonina, peacock anemone, and wind anemone, the top one. Now the last part, we move on the Abruzzo National Park. The last part, Abruzzo National Park is here on the central Italy, not too far away from Rome. It's one of the highest part of the Italian Apennine. That's where one of the places you could find the lizard orchid, and this one, which I'll tell you about a little bit more later on. Anyway, what's in Abruzzo National Park? First is the Gran Sasso. Gran Sasso, which is the highest mountain in south of the Alps in Europe, which is 2,912 meters. Gran Sasso, and there's a Campo Imperatore. If any one of you are old enough to remember the last war, when Mussolini is being made prisoner the first time, they took it up on the Gran Sasso, in isolation, the Gran Sasso, which was an hotel, 4-star hotel in there. So they put him in there, so he cannot escape anywhere. But then a German aircraft, he did manage to land in this field, and he took Mussolini away. This is the place where he did land. But it's a lovely place, that altitude, you know, and it's still pretty cold. We are in the beginning of May in here, but as you could see, there's lots of ranunculus in there, and orchids growing at that altitude. And where the snow is just been melted, you find thousands and thousands of crocus. In the southern part of the mountain, the slope part, the southern part, you find the mountain cover of Viola heart's ease. This one is actually the progeny, is the mothers or mother and father of our garden pansy. That's where they originated from. And it's so many variation and color, they're all interbreeding by each other, and they're really making up a real spectacle with so many different color and variation. It's unbelievable. There are in the Abruzzo National Park, there are lots and lots of villages, empty villages. Most of them are villages. I suppose they come in full just during weekend or during the summertime. And we were in there just a month and a half after there was a big earthquake not too far away in there. So quite a lot of places they was closed down really, because and they was still searching and for people and trying to build up roads and connection and so on. But these little villages, they are real jewels. If anyone's like to go in and do scenery, landscape scenery, they got so many little corners and little beauties around. It's incredible. A real something to preserve, really. This is the village of Navelli. Then we got the village of Ofena. Again, we didn't went in on the village of Ofena. We're just looking from outside. And then we go Barrea Lake, this beautiful lake in here, and the village on the top. Then we have Hopi village. Again, this village stuck up in this top of the hill in there. Hopi, O-P-I. And we go Cucullo, another village. We hardly see anybody living in there. And just look at this one. This is the main road down in the bottom, the main road on the valley. And this just turn it up, go up here, and going up on this village in here, which is Casali, the village of Casali. And this church, you see that one in there, the little church, is that one in there. You just saw this little bit to go, a foot track to go up there in that mountain. and just look at the scenery all around. Beautiful. Castel del Monte means a castle on the mountain. That is the castle. But what we was aiming, he was around, as you could tell, there's still a lot of people around because they're still green in there. They're still doing a bit of agriculture, cutting the hay and grass. And that's what we was aiming for insects and things like that, you know, because that's what we like to do. Beautiful dancer fly, transparent burnet, and red underwing skippers. Black veined moths, Siona lineata, which is a day flying, but even a night flying. And this is perhaps the most rare moths in UK. It's only one tiny little place down in Kent. And butterfly conservation does spend a lot of money to try to preserve these beautiful little moths. Forester as well, another moths abundant in there, but not so much in England. Bee fly, which is quite scary when you see coming around with this thing, but it's absolutely nothing. It's there just for nothing. It doesn't serve to anything, that one. It's just for nectar. Red assassin bug as well. Red assassin because it means it's actually a quite good predator. If you go in the garden, leave it alone because it takes a lot of aphids and pests and so on, even little snails. Then Italian stings bug as well. Another beautiful colorful bugs. We found in the marsh fritillary and spotted fritillary, Melitatea didima, and clouded yellow, Coreus croceus, and knobweed fritillary, which resembles very much the glanville fritillary. The only way to separate it, the underwings has got these red spots in here, which is not the red spots, they're not in the glanville, and red spots in here, which on the glanville, they are yellowish. And heat fritillary, Italian marble white. Here we go another 2 or 3 minutes and then we finish. Southern white admiral, Liminetis reducta. Orchids like the pale flowered orchids, Orchis pallens, and bird's nest orchids, which are very funny orchids. It doesn't have any green leaves or any green color at all. We found the enormous amount of the white Elloborine Cephalantera longifolia, which they always have the flower hardly never open on this plant, but in here there was some beautiful flower completely open, so he was able to photograph the inside of the plant as well. And even the sword leaf Elloborine and the common white blade. And in the last day, just outside of the park, John as well, because he's always found new things as well. He said, I want to go and look on this field. And he went to look on this field and he was covered with late spider orchid. And you could see again, so many different species. And when we were back, we reported to the Italian Orchid Society. And they said, yes, we know about it. We just discovered it and we just studied about, but we think that there are at least a dozen of different species in there, which obviously they've been by the expert, they've been studied and published all under different names, which I don't remember it anyway. But the biggest find of all is the southern lady slipper. Is a very plant, 2 or 3 plant only. It's a remnants of the Ice Age. And this is the only place on the south of Europe occur the southern lady's orchid. But on the National Park of Abruzzo is famous for the Marsican bear, the Apennine wolf, and the Chamois Abruzzo, which the Chamois Abruzzo is a very small chamois, brownish in color. We didn't see any wolf. The bear, we went to see it once evening, but unfortunately went in a woodland and we missed it. And so we said we'll try at least to see the chamois. No? So the only chamois we know is up on the Camoshara mountain, near on the Camoshara mountain. And so me and John, we decided to take a long walk, which it takes about 2 hours to go up in the mountain. We found some specialties, some flower of the mountain, like the pulsatilla, snow pulsatilla, the berries, and the trumpet gentian. And we arrive in there, and we only see the chamois far, far, far a long distance away. I said, we can only see it with the binoculars. No, it's not there to photograph. So we just lay down on our sandwich and have a bit of a sunbed and a beautiful day. And eventually, some of the younger male, they turned down as in curiosity. So they turned down and looked at us, and we was actually able at least to manage to see the chamois, which we done almost 2 hour walks for with a good results. We've been able to photograph the Abruzzo chamois still in a winter coat, but that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, Gianpiero. What a wonderful show that was.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Some fantastic images. Unbelievable. So have we got any questions, anybody?
Absolutely amazing photographs.
Yeah, fantastic show, yeah.
I don't know
Stunning
how you
images.
tell the difference between all those orchids.
I hope you didn't fall asleep with all them flowers.
I imagine how much work is put into to put that together
Yeah,
for us.
so many photographs. Amazing.
Wonderful.
Absolutely stunning.
Any questions, anybody? No?
Okay.
Just
Thank you very much.
an awesome night, really.
Unbelievable night.
You just don't realize that. I know it's not on our doorstep, but you just don't realize there are so many different varieties of orchid and butterfly and so on that are just out there that you're never even aware of.
If we can't get out there this summer, at least we've seen those.
Well, we've seen flowers, we've seen birds, we've seen butterflies, we've landscapes, beetles, moths. We've had a history lesson. And I'm sure there's been many other things that we've had tonight. So, Gianpiero, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Good night, everybody.
And
And,
good night to you.
and my friend Jeff and Barry and John as well. Thank you.
Yeah,
for coming.
nice. I don't know where Jeff is, but nice to have had you, Jeff.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.